Not high enough for this shit. I'm not high enough to read about Israel killing another fucking reporter who clearly had a reporter's vest on. Killing of journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. Akleh. That's probably Shireen Abu Akleh. Israeli forces triggers an outpouring of condemnation and condolences. Calls for a full, independent, and transparent investigation into the killing of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh are mounting, with world leaders demanding that those responsible be held to account. The veteran journalist, described as an icon of Palestinian coverage, was shot by Israeli forces while reporting in Jenin in the occupied West Bank on Wednesday. The tragic event has sparked global outrage, with the EU urging an independent investigation, and the UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet saying she was appalled. Impunity must end. Fucking Israel been doing a lot of shit with impunity for a while. In New York, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, called Abu Akleh's killing really horrifying and called for a transparent investigation. She said protecting American citizens and journalists was our highest priority. The White House has called for a thorough probe. We are heartbroken by and strongly condemn the killing of American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in the West Bank. Ned Price, U.S. State Department spokesman, said on Twitter the investigation must be immediate and thorough, and those responsible must be held accountable. Her death is an affront to media freedom everywhere. During the day, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Tom Nides, had said on Twitter he was very sad to learn about the journalist's killing and called for a thorough investigation. Angus Calamard, Amnesty International Secretary General, said that the killing was a bloody reminder of the deadly system in which Israel locks Palestinians. There we go. That's something a little more forceful. Israel is killing Palestinians left and right with impunity. That's what I was looking for. In a statement, Al Jazeera Media Network condemned the blatant murder, very purposeful that they called it a murder, that violates international laws and norms, and called Abu Akleh's death a heinous crime through which is intended to prevent the media from fulfilling its message. We hold the Israeli government and the occupation forces responsible for the killing of the late colleague Shireen, the statement said.
When you're watching Al Jazeera, we're bringing you the news that a journalist for Al Jazeera Network, our correspondent Shireen Abu Akleh, has been shot in the face and has died shortly afterwards. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, it happened apparently during an Israeli army raid in the Jenin town in northern West Bank. Nida Ibrahim is in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Nida, I want to ask you first of all how you and the team are reacting to the news.
Let me say that the thing that is most appalling about this to me is I haven't really seen any U.S. organizations report on this. This hasn't been penetrating my Facebook feed, at least for me personally. So I'm a little disturbed by that.
Morning.
We're here in Al Jazeera's offices in Ramallah, where, if you can see, the colleagues of Shireen are gathering. There are journalists also here coming. Everyone is looking at this video that shows the last moments of her life.
Fuck, they've got the video.
She's been shot while she was covering the Israeli raid in Jenin. And if you will pay attention to that video, I'm not sure if you can see, but even as she was shot, and you will see someone coming in now trying to pull her from the
Clearly
scene.
has a press vest on.
Shots continued. So it was really difficult, even if she had a chance to make it, it was really difficult to pull her, to get her the help she needed. And shortly after, she succumbed to her wounds in the hospital.
Nida,
So you
one can
see-
understand,
look at their
forgive me,
faces.
forgive
Tells
me
you
for
everything.
interrupting you. One can understand, because we have heard from Stephanie how tightly
That's
knit
heartbreaking. That's
these
their
teams can
colleague
be,
that they
how
just
much like a
watched
family
die.
these teams on the ground can be. Try, if you can, just talk to us what kind of impact this is having on the team.
I think the pictures are speaking for themselves, right, Rob? People here have lived with her. You know, these teams go on long coverages, they spend days and days in the field, so they're like one family. We even got a message from Shireen yesterday asking us to come to Jenin, where she has been based. Her producer, Wissam, who's here, he's been also a friend. They go out together. So you can see and you can sense the closeness
And
of
apparently she was an incredible journalist, so I wonder if she was specifically targeted.
journalists working for other networks. Because there's a feeling among Palestinian journalists that they are targeted by the Israeli forces because they are carrying the story, because they are the messenger of the Israeli violations, the attacks, of what's going on. So here everyone feels that they themselves could be like Shireen. Many of them, if you ask them, they'll tell you that they've been shot by live ammunition, by rubber-coated steel bullets. They've been hit by tear gas canister. So, as these people are concerned, the aim is to prevent them from going to the field and covering. We're talking about the season.
I detect your sarcasm, Ghana Buffalo. I like you.
Of the story, who has been well versed everywhere we go as Al Jazeera English team. We meet people who say, "Oh yeah, we know Shireen. She was there when we were covering in Jenin in the past few weeks." People were saying that she was one of the first people to arrive after the Israeli invasion to the camp. And that marked 20 years. We marked the anniversary of just a few days ago, 20 years ago, when the Israeli army invaded the camp, technically raiding the buildings there to clamp down on the Palestinian fighters. She's someone not only is seasoned and knows her story, she's also been trying to learn. She has never had enough. She wanted to learn new media. She just graduated with a diploma from Birzeit University. She was showing us her phone proudly, showing us how she was editing and using those softwares.
Wow.
She was very modest for someone who was very well known, very professional. So she was also telling us in Jenin that she was learning Hebrew. She was reading to us from Israeli media, the Israeli narrative, because often when you look at stories, there's a Palestinian narrative and there's an Israeli narrative, and it's important for Palestinians to get their voice out there. So it's important for them to know what's going on or what the Israeli media is reporting, to kind of try and debunk it and say what really happened. Let me take you to her office. She's been working here. She has an office.
They targeted her, right? Like
Shireen Abu Akleh. This is where
just because of that
you can see
resume that was just
honoring
named
tags
off.
for her from several places. This is in regards to a committee defending.
The live stream is buffering? That's weird. I've got
just a few
great
days
bit rate over
marking
here.
The 74th
So
anniversary.
yeah,
They
could be silencing me for speaking out on
100,000 Palestinians
Israel.
by when Israel was created. She was telling the story. For all of these decades, she has been someone you would rely on to tell you the story. She was a teacher in Birzeit University, but she was also a student. She really wanted to focus on the human
this breaks my heart more than when I saw the story
She's
earlier
someone
today.
you would feel comfortable talking to. So I guess that's why people opened up to her, talked to her. And
Now
she
learning
was
more
able to
about her,
carry
this is just
the
absolutely
features,
heartbreaking.
The stories. So that's why we're seeing lots and lots of people coming to the bureau. Here's Rania, who's beside.
Okay. So here's the thing.
She always would tell me, Shireen.
Was she targeted? One of two things has to be true. She was targeted, or they are just that careless that they routinely kill doctors and journalists. both of those scenarios are untenable, and Israel should face condemnation for it. One of them has to be true.
Shireen, she would know this. Let me call Shireen before we go to Janine. I know you don't have words, and
I will say the rest of the show is probably not as downer as this.
For Shireen.
Will, mister?
Parental unit.
We will. Everyone
I don't know how you can get more downer than this.
how kind she is. You might see them now engaged in the details. Now we hear that they're going to take her body for autopsy. People here say that they want to bring her justice. They want the world to know what Palestinian journalists and Palestinians are going through.
Nida, there must be questions that people like you and her colleagues ask themselves when they're faced with a situation like this about whether it's worth carrying on, whether it's worth doing this job and putting your life at risk. Can you...
That's the chilling effect. That's what they want.
Mood would be moving forward. Do you think that people are going to, at least some of them might say, I'm not doing this anymore?
Definitely.
That is the goal.
I can tell you, studying journalism in Birzeit University, my generation has the generation
terrorism.
that has been young during the Second Intifada went to study journalism because of correspondence like Shireen Abu Akleh, like Jibar al-Budairi. They wanted
Not high enough for this
the
shit.
world, the story, the way these journalists did. So when they see an idol of theirs, when they see someone who's been shot, when I see someone like her who was just commenting on my picture yesterday, just like that, how is that going to affect me trying to go to Jenin again or to go to the West Bank again? Or yeah, of course. I can't tell you how it's going to affect me. I'm still processing. I'm still in shock. Everyone here is still in shock. But definitely, it's going to have an impact on you. You know what? Even if we want to keep on telling the story, what about our families? Are they going to be okay with us continuing doing this story? Now, this is not to say that Palestinians are safe and journalists are the ones being targeted. We are covering our story. We're covering the story of our people, of our families. So it's not like if I'm not a journalist, I'm not going to be targeted or killed. We pass checkpoints on a daily basis. And sometimes you see armed Israeli soldiers directing their weapons at you. So you think that is not going to affect us, or like that could happen to us. My point is that these things could happen to us, and excuse me if I'm just sometimes at loss of words.
Ma'am, you are fine. You lost a colleague. You are doing your job spectacularly in the face of, I don't know how long ago you would have even heard the news, within the hour or so of when you're filming this. Like, it is okay that you're not as concise or on point as you might normally be. Fuck. I can't imagine what it's like in that office.